I want people to have a certain freedom, and I don't believe in that, no. And I don't agree with the statement that if everybody wear a mask, everything disappears. Hey, Dr. Fauci said don't wear a mask. Our Surgeon General, terrific guy, said don't wear a mask. Everybody was saying don't wear a mask. All of a sudden, everybody's got to wear a mask. And as you know, masks cause problems, too. With that being said, I'm a believer in masks. I think masks are good.
All right, you just heard it. Despite what the mainstream media wants you to believe, President Trump, there he is, encouraging mask use. But CNN's Chris Cillizza, who is like the president's troller-in-chief, wants you to think otherwise. Here's what he wrote for CNN, quote, "The president of the United States continued to cast public health measure as some sort of liberty thermometer means that his followers still believe that mask wearing, or not, is some political statement. It's not. It's common sense and doing something for the common good." Now, it strikes me that common sense and common good would be to report what the president accurately says and not reimagine the president's statement. But CNN's Chris Cillizza seems to be having some comprehension issues. I mean, it seems like no matter what the president says, he tries to figure out how to twist it and make it seem like it's not what he actually did say. To break it all down, though, I want to bring in Dave Rubin, who is the host of the Rubin Report. Dave's also the author of Don't Burn This Book, Thinking for Yourself in an Age of Unreason. Dave, welcome back.
Hey, it's good to be with you guys.
All right, you heard the president's statement that he gave to Chris Wallace. You heard what I just read you, Chris Cillizza said. Which Chris is right?
Well, look, we're living in 1984. The Ministry of Truth is sending us information, you know, our mainstream media, CNN. I like what you said about Cillizza. He's basically just a troll at this point. Look, Trump speaks in a way that sometimes it's a little confusing to know exactly what he means. So it sort of is like wear a mask, but then also don't wear a mask. It's a little confusing. We all get that. But in essence, what Trump was saying there, if you watch the whole interview, is that he wants to respect people's personal responsibility and their ability to make choices for themselves and their family, and also get us back to some feeling of normalcy. And that, of course, we know is the right way to go about doing this. Let's not forget, the CDC was telling us one thing a couple months ago, don't wear masks. Then they tell us to wear masks. And we had this sort of cascade throughout all of the media with these mixed messages. So I think all you can do in a time like this is basically figure out what is right for you. Now, if you happen to go into a store that requires masks, well, then you're making the choice to go into that store, so you have to abide by their rules. But in your personal life, who you let into your house, what you do when you're walking around the street or going to a park, that has to be up to you. Look, I'm here in LA, where a week ago I could go to a restaurant and have lunch. I was actually at lunch at a restaurant when I got a notification on my phone saying that all the restaurants were closed. But did they ever tell us why? Has there been any information that because restaurants and bars opened, that caused spikes? It's just they like making decisions for us. And unfortunately, as Americans, we've been giving away this decision-making power for a long time.
You know, the other thing that the president brought up, and again, I agree with you, it's kind of muddled, but I think it was an important thing. Some of these masks, especially the ones that are made in China, are not necessarily what you would call EPA approved. They've got chemicals in the mask, and the mask you buy and the mask you choose to wear could be detrimental to your own health if you're not paying attention to it. I think that's what the president was bringing up in that interview where Chris Cillizza takes issue with that. But I think that's an important thing, don't you, that you should be concerned about making sure that you're not breathing in chemicals from some Chinese-made factory that got shipped here?
Well, of course. I mean, we've seen videos go viral of mask factories in China where the workers are intentionally infecting them and touching them and stepping on them and all sorts of stuff. But again, you have to figure out what is right for you. You know, Cillizza, this is the same guy who, after Trump's Mount Rushmore speech, in effect, he called it, you know, the most authoritarian, racist speech he had ever heard. Something I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And it's like this guy takes what Trump says and always takes it to the reverse. So much like pretty much everything else going on CNN, I wouldn't pay it much attention. And as you guys know, the viewers aren't really paying it much attention either because nobody's really watching. So that is the silver lining here. But somebody, whether it's Trump or however he has to get his message out, whatever surrogates he's using for his presidency, his campaign, he has to clean up the message a little bit because on one hand, yeah, respect personal freedom, but then how do you go about letting states do things and all that? That still seems unclear. And maybe that's just a function of a democracy with 350 million people. Things are going to be a little muddled, and the best you can do is do what's best for your family.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I think something else is, you're kind of saying this, Dave, but almost the president should come out and be a little bit more clear exactly about what he means, because Cillizza acts like Trump's kind of playing both sides of the fence here and saying, okay, masks are, not good, but they are good, instead of being super clear and saying, unless you have these type of masks, they might be detrimental to you, and kind of going a little bit deeper in his messaging.
Right, but of course, the irony is if Trump came out and said everyone must wear a mask right now, it's not up to the states, it's not up to the cities, it is absolutely up to the federal government, what would Cillizza and everyone on CNN be doing? They'd be saying, see, he is the authoritarian and he doesn't respect states' rights and federalism and the rest of it. So, whenever we're having these conversations, we have to talk about, unfortunately, the media lens, which is the way that we're able to decipher what these messages mean. And Trump's greatest gift, I've been saying this for years, his greatest gift is that he can get all of his political opponents to take virtually any position. So if Trump came out and said that everyone has to wear masks tomorrow, well, congratulations, they'd all be saying nobody should wear masks. And if Trump tomorrow said, I want open borders, they'd be calling for a wall. And we can go through all of those things. So in some ways, it's like Cillizza is acting as a troll, constantly trying to manipulate what Trump said. But Trump has his own game that he's playing there, too. And that's just what politics is these days.
Hey, let me ask you this. Lindsay was talking about the president's stance and his messaging. The president announced today that he's bringing these coronavirus briefings back. You think that's a good idea?
Well, I do think it's a good idea if he's going to do what he was doing before they stopped, which is basically speak unfiltered. And it's not that CNN and the New York Times won't selectively edit what he said or what any of his surrogates say. We know they do it, right? They're going to do it no matter what. But the beauty of the internet and the beauty of digital media is that the second they cut him out, they cut a sentence so it sounds like the reverse, or they remove the word but, or they remove the word and. Well, now Twitter and YouTube and everywhere else allows for people to see the whole thing. Trump, for better or worse, he's his own best surrogate, and in a weird way, he's his own worst surrogate. But I think getting his message out and, forcing CNN's hand in a way, because they stopped covering those press conferences because they said Trump was lying. But then it's like people end up watching them and they're like, oh, well, this is actually pretty truthful, or at least more truthful than what you guys are peddling us. So we've got a war. We've got a war between the president and the media, which, by the way, people shouldn't fear. A media and a president that are at each other's throats, that's pretty much a good tension. You don't want the president jailing media members, obviously, or punishing them somehow. But the tension between the media and the president is good. And perhaps if we had had a little more of that, remember a critical media? If we had had a critical media under years of Obama, well, then we wouldn't be in this situation right now. But you want that tension in a healthy democracy.
Do you think that he shouldn't have the media ask questions in these coronavirus briefings? Would that help at all? Would that be a good strategy?
Purely for entertainment purposes, you got to love the questions, right? And so, no, I have no problem. Let them ask questions. He should go up there. I think this is what he's very good at. Look, let's remember, the guy was the host of The Celebrity Apprentice. He's a TV guy. I think he should be going out there as often as he wants to, talk directly to the people. Let's see if CNN airs it or not. But, you can always view it in alternate ways, as I said. And then, let the media ask questions. And unfortunately, what usually happens is they hang themselves with these ridiculous manipulated questions. And if that's what they want to do, then so be it. But if you can get some good journalists in there, usually when I say the word journalists these days, I have to use air quotes because they're journalists. They're not journalists. But if we could get some actual journalists in there, Sean, I have no doubt that when you were press secretary, you enjoyed getting good questions, right? Like that's the whole point. Right. You want to be challenged. What you don't want is just a clown show. And I think that that's really what the briefings are becoming. Well, at least when we were having.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I could probably count my entire tenure the 5 questions that I got that I call good. Anyway, all right, Dave Rubin, love having you on. Hope to see you soon.
My pleasure, guys.
All right. When we come back, we're going to show you some very startling images of the violent protests that are happening in Portland right now. We're going to tell you about the surprisingly disappointing response from that city's mayor.